Welcome everyone who's joining us. We are thrilled to have you for the Kurtis Reese campaign kickoff. We're going to hold on for just a minute and let people continue to join. While we're waiting to get started, if you want to, if you're comfortable doing so, please add your email address to the chat box so we can collect that. And if you prefer to give it to us in a different way, we'll have more information on how to do so at Kurtis's website shortly. But we're going to just wait a couple minutes for everyone to gather. Thank you, Patty. I'm seeing your note that it actually did ask for email addresses when you signed in. If it did, that's great. And hopefully we can capture that. Just to answer the question that came in, for all the people who are joining, you won't be on video, only the panelists will. Again, thanks to everyone. We're just a little bit after 5 o'clock. We're going to give it a couple more minutes and let people continue to join, and we'll start up in just about 2 minutes. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. First, again, I want to welcome you all to the Kurtis Reese for Walnut Creek City Council campaign kickoff. We are thrilled to be here, to have a chance to introduce Kurt to some of you, and for those of you that know Kurt, get a chance to hear his vision for the city. My name is Ted Angus. I'm, again, excited and honored to be introducing Kurtis. I see a lot of people on the line. The numbers keep going up, and that's great. We're going to have a chance to hear from Kurtis here soon, but before we do, I just want to mention a couple logistics and then a couple things around the campaign. So first, the event is being recorded tonight, but all participants are in listen-only mode. We also can't see you unless you're part of the panel that'll be speaking. If you have questions for Kurtis, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box at the bottom at any time. We will hear from Kurtis, and then in a few minutes following his remarks, Carrie Metcalf and Robert Bocci will moderate a Q&A session with Kurtis using those questions. Also in the chat below, as we get to near the end of the program, we'll provide you with some information on ways to participate in the race, links to Kurtis's website and other information. But if you miss any of those links or if you don't hear all the information, what you really need to know is to go to kurtisreese.com and everything you need to know is going to be available there. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Today we kick off his campaign. It's an opportunity to bring a new, much needed perspective to the city of Walnut Creek. It's about change, it's about a new direction and a brighter tomorrow. And I think we're very confident that Kurtis is the right person at the right time to help us do that. I'll let him tell you more about what he's about. But before I do, on behalf of the campaign, I also wanted to just let you know the ways that we hope that you'll help us in this process. There's really 4 important ways that you can choose to support Kurt. All of these are available to you if you visit kurtisreese.com on the website. And it's really 4 ways: donate, volunteer, endorse, and share. First, to donate to the campaign, Walnut Creek has a limit of $200 per person, but that's per person. So a household can have multiple donators if they so choose. Must be 18 years of age or older. We welcome any donation of any size below $200, and we're happy to have it. You need not be registered to vote in Walnut Creek or elsewhere. They're essential to a campaign and will be really important for us to help get our message, Kurt's message out. Second, volunteer. We need an army of volunteers. If you think you can help in any way, we would love to have you sign up, and we'll reach out in the days ahead here to ask you to help us make calls, send emails, put up yard signs, host events, drop campaign materials. If you have other great ideas, we will welcome them. And if you have any particular skills that you think are of value, please let us know, and we're happy to leverage that as well. Third, endorse. If you're comfortable doing so, please provide your endorsement for Kurt at kurtisreese.com. In local races, it's really important for people to see their neighbors and their friends supporting a candidate. Some of you have already done that. We appreciate it. Kurtis has also been very fortunate to earn the support of several organizations already, including both the Rossmore and Contra Costa Democrat organizations, the Contra Costa Labor Council, and then most recently, the several hundred member strong Friends of Scott and Town Hall. And we are proud and excited to have those endorsements. If you're aware of other organizations or prominent individuals we should reach out to, we're open to suggestions, and we would love an introduction. Last, share, spread the word. Link to his sites on social media and his website. Please share them with others so that other friends can join in. As I mentioned above, if you're a member of a local organization or you have a group of people that you think we should put Kurtis in front of to tell his story, we'd love to have that introduction. There's 8 candidates in this race. That's unusual. 8 candidates for 3 spots. Every vote's going to count. It's going to get sliced a lot of different ways, and we need every one of you that's interested to help us gain those votes one at a time. So if you forget anything else that I said, just remember, go to kurtisreese.com and please donate, volunteer, endorse, and share. Now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kurtis to talk about his vision for the future of Walnut Creek. Kurtis.
Thank you very much, Ted. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to have this opportunity. I'm honored that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to visit me and hear what I have to say about my vision for the city. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to, first of all, thank all of my friends and family who have gone beyond the call of duty to assist me in this endeavor to do what I can to help my city. Most specifically, I'd like to thank my wife, who has given up far more than she ever should have to help her husband out in doing this. I love her and I thank her very much. But now on to my vision. James Baldwin, a celebrated writer and activist, once stated that I love America more than any other country in the world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. A lot of times what you hear today in America is that if you don't like something, then you should get the heck out of the country. Or if you don't like something that's happening in your city, you should pack up and move, go to another place. But I refuse to do that. I'm not going to give up. That would be un-American. In fact, in my opinion, one of the most American things you can do, one of the most patriotic things you can do as an American is, number one, identify a problem in your society. Number two, criticize it by speaking truth to power. And number three, doing something about it. Identify the problem, speak to it, and then do something about it. That is the story of America, and to a far lesser degree, that's my story tonight. About a year ago, many of you know the story of Miles Hall. I've been close friends with his parents for nearly 30 years. And on that fateful day in June, Miles, in the midst of a mental break, was shot and killed by the Walnut Creek Police Department. This happened although his parents followed all the established protocols of the time. They did everything they were supposed to do. They followed directions to a T. But although they did that, they still lost their son. I was distraught by what happened. And considering the fact that this is a family that always went out of their way to support their friends, family, and community, I felt compelled to do something to help them. I started by speaking at City Council, letting them know my displeasure with some of the things that happened that led up to Miles's death. And that transitioned into me speaking to them about possible changes that could ensure that this problem would never happen again. I didn't want another family to ever suffer what the Hall family suffered through. While doing that, I was able to form relationships with people within the city. I built a relationship with the chief of police. He and I had a heart-to-heart, and after that conversation, it was established that we didn't see eye to eye on several issues, but we decided to work together anyway. Together, we created the Police Chiefs Advisory Board, where I was the inaugural member. I interviewed nearly 75 people, and we were able to choose 16 people from diverse parts of the city, different backgrounds, different perceptions, to meet once a month to provide feedback to the police department, to review policies, and ultimately to make positive changes. From there, I also worked with the chief to create a program that I piloted where he and one of his officers went with me to Las Lomas High School, where we had a frank conversation with the students, talking about safely interacting with law enforcement. What I did was identify problems. I criticized the leadership that was responsible for those problems or responsible for resolving those problems. And then I did something about it. What I learned from those situations, from that experience, is that by working within the system, I can actually get some things done. And I believe that the natural progression for me is to move from what I'm doing outside of any position in the city to becoming a member of the city council, where I can have a broader and more immediate impact and execute change that I know that the city is requesting. And in reviewing the city council, I recognize there are a number of problems on problems. Number one, there's a lack of diversity. There's an inability of them to connect with people. They're slow to act on important items. And most importantly, they're utilizing ordinary tactics to resolve extraordinary problems in an extraordinary time. What I bring to the table is 20 years of experience leading global teams, managing budgets, making tough decisions that balance the needs of the organization with the needs of the people that those decisions impact. What I will do is utilize that experience and apply it to the city council to come up with creative solutions to the problems that we have. I will ensure that we address problems that are posed to the city on a regular basis so that we can move beyond that and get on to more to the day-to-day business of running the city. There are two high-level problems that we need to address immediately. Number one is COVID-19. COVID-19 is a broad situation that affects multiple items. First of all, there's the health and safety issue. We need to ensure that we continue to work with the county and the state to protect our community and make us as safe as possible. From there is the impact to business. In the short term, we need to ensure that we do everything possible to ensure the survival of as many of these businesses as possible. There was a lot of energy placed on reinvigorating the restaurants in downtown Walnut Creek. I want to ensure that that same energy is applied to other businesses, not only in downtown, but in the broader Walnut Creek area. From there, once we exit the COVID era, there will be a transitional period where we need to ensure that the businesses get back up to speed. I want to knock down all the barriers that will prevent them from doing so. And if there are any open buildings or any opportunities for new businesses to jump in and take advantage of that situation, I want to make sure that we're able to fast track them as much as possible so that we can get our city going again in a business capacity. But in the long term, I support creative measures such as building out business centers so that we can bring in professional businesses that pay high salaries. It would be very beneficial if people that lived in Walnut Creek could actually work in Walnut Creek and make the salaries needed to exist here, as opposed to coming into the city to work retail and not making enough money to live here. So all these items filter into one big issue, which is budgets. We are experiencing a budget shortfall of approximately $12 million. And in order for us to shore that up, it is imperative that we get our businesses going again, because a high percentage of the revenue that comes into the city is from sales tax. In order to move on to support some of the more creative social programs that I'm interested in, we have to ensure that there's revenue. So businesses are the heart and soul of everything that I'm interested in doing. So the next item is social justice issues. That's also a broad term, but as any of you who have attended city council meetings would know, that there is virtually an inability of us to get to the day-to-day business of running the city because we have to spend multiple hours addressing the pressing issues that the community is bringing to the city council. There have been problems relating to social justice that the community has been bringing to the city council for over a year, and they have yet to be addressed. Until we address those, we can't handle the day-to-day businesses. We cannot resolve some of the issues that I mentioned in the previous topic. So key issues revolving around social justice: number one, 24/7 non-police, non-violent response to mental health calls. The adoption of a restrictive use of force policy for the Walnut Creek Police Department, evidence-based anti-bias diversity training for the police department, and diversity and inclusion. We need to ensure that efforts are made to make the lesser represented aspect of our community feel welcome. The city has spoken. They have asked for fresh perspectives. They want compassionate responses to community needs. They're interested in diversity. And as a Black man who was born in the inner city, I attended underfunded schools. I fought my way into college and became the first male in my family to receive a bachelor's degree, the first man in my family to get a master's degree. I worked hard to earn the opportunity to choose to live in a place like Walnut Creek. So essentially, I embody the social change that is being requested by the community. On the other hand, as an 18-year resident of Walnut Creek, a homeowner, a volunteer, a productive member of this community, I also embody the reason that there's no need to fear the change that is being requested. So what have we done? We've identified that there are problems in Walnut Creek. As a community, we've done that. We spent the past year criticizing the leadership in Walnut Creek, speaking truth to power, letting them know that we are concerned about certain issues and we want action. If you want to do something, November 3rd is your opportunity. When you see Walnut Creek City Council, look for the last name on the list. That'll be Kurtis Reese, and vote for me. Thank you very much for your time. From here, I'm going to pass control over to Robert and Carrie and give you an opportunity to ask me questions.
Thank you, Kurtis, and again, welcome everybody. That was really inspiring. Just as a quick reminder, we are happy to take questions. If you would like to post them in the Q&A at the very bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A box. You can click it and type your question in there, and we'll queue them up for Kurtis. So Kurtis, there's a question here. It's from Anonymous, so I don't know who it's from. It says, how do you plan to keep the city safe if you defund the police?
Well, first of all, defund the police is far too simplistic of a word to encapsulate what I'm interested in doing. I am not in support of just randomly cutting a certain percentage of the funding that's going to the police. I am not looking to punish the police for the ills of the past by taking money away from them. What I'm more interested in doing is evaluating the budget, going through the funding that they have with a fine-tooth comb and looking for fat and ensuring that that excess money, the money that's being spent on things that are deemed relatively unnecessary, is transitioned over to an area where it is necessary. For example, I don't support spending money on a tank or tear gas, but I attended a meeting where Walnut Creek Police requested funding for new motorcycles for their patrolmen. I would be in favor of removing money from that, from non-essential segments over to funding something like that. But most importantly, I am looking for opportunities to find ways to fund non-police responses to things that are better served by professionals that are not in the profession of policing. For example, a non-police response to mental health calls.
Thank you, Kurtis.
Thanks, Kurtis. Kurtis, we've got a question from Steve that you mentioned COVID-19 and social justice. What are some of the other top issues that you see facing Walnut Creek today?
Well, you know, the majority of the problems that I see will be affected by budgetary issues. So homelessness, for example, is a big issue. And since we have a huge budget shortfall, my big concern is our ability to fund programs that are designed to not only help the homeless, but ensure that the community around them are safe. And in addition to the homeless, there's also people that are in a housing crisis. So companies all over this country are folding or furloughing or laying people off. And there are people in our community next door to us that are in danger of losing their homes. We already know that a large percentage of Americans are just a few paychecks away from losing virtually everything. So I'm in favor of ensuring that programs, specifically at the county level, that are designed to help people maintain their homes continue to be funded. So although some of the things that I'm interested in doing will not specifically cross my desk as a city council member, I will have the ability to work with my counterparts in other cities around Contra Costa and influence the county to ensure that programs are funded.
Great, thanks, Kurtis. Kristen asks, you mentioned you have experience leading global teams. Can you talk a little bit more about that experience and how you see it assisting as you build coalitions on the council to make progress and move forward some of your important initiatives that you've talked about tonight?
Sure. So I work in IT, and I've been an IT manager for multiple types of companies, marketing firms, energy organizations, other high-tech firms. And the challenge of managing global teams is that often you need to influence without actually being present. So when you create a vision, a plan, a roadmap, it has to be able to capture the hearts and minds of your team, even when you don't have the luxury of being in their face and letting them feel your energy and enthusiasm. And that capability gives me certain tools that will allow me to communicate well with counterparts and influence individuals to consider my way of doing things. But beyond that, there's a limited amount of control that you have when you're dealing with someone on the other side of the world. There's always a possibility that they will do whatever they want to do. So it's important to be able to negotiate and understand their perspective and their vision. And this plays out around the world when I'm dealing with different cultures, language barriers, all types of issues. I'm able to communicate, connect, and get things done. I'm sorry, Rob, was there a second part to that question?
I think you've got it covered, Kurt. I'm trying to scroll back up though to find it here, but it's populating quick. I think that's covered it. If you'd like, Kristen, if you'd like additional details, please feel free to repost it on the Q&A.
And thank you, Shelley. Shelley has asked, in light of social distancing requirements, what kind of meet and greet events do you plan to do so that citizens of Walnut Creek outside of your personal network have a chance to get to know you and support you?
Well, first of all, I plan to do more Zoom parties, which is, I'll be honest, I feel somewhat hamstrung by the inability to meet people face to face. But I plan on doing more of these virtual house parties. We have some other creative and hopefully less intense and possibly more fun programs on the horizon that we'd like to invite people to, where you get an opportunity to see me in my natural light and get a sense of my personality. But beyond that, I am open, and we're working on the logistics of this, working on smaller, more intimate, face-to-face meet and greets, or perhaps in a large backyard, making sure we have 12 or less people and everyone's wearing their face masks and we're social distance. We can have conversations and at least within earshot of each other. If you have any ideas, feel free to share them with me, and I definitely consider them.
Thanks, Kurtis. All right. Barbara's asking, tell us more about the existing Walnut Creek Police Department use of force policy and what changes you think could be made there, Kurtis.
Sure. So the existing Walnut Creek use of force policies are not as clear as they need to be. There's one of the issues in all the policies that I've reviewed for the Walnut Creek Police Department is that there are often caveats in them and easy ways for leadership to make exceptions. And in a sense, I'd like to ensure that the officers are locked into certain protocols that make them consider the safety of the people that they're dealing with. Now, I know the pushback on that is that if the police officers have to worry about the specifics of their policies all the time, that it puts them in danger. But I have a different perspective on that. My belief is that if you have this list of protocols that you know are looming over you, then when you are truly in fear for your life, you will not care about those and you will do what's necessary to protect yourself. So that's really what I'm interested in doing.
Thanks, Kurt.
Sorry about that. Laura has a question that in response to repairing the breach between the city and those demanding change because of Miles' death, you proposed an effort called the listening meetings. Can you talk about those and why those were an important part of your effort?
Yes. So the listening meeting is essentially the first meeting in what I hope to be a series of meetings. So the listening meeting is a facilitated interaction between law enforcement in Walnut Creek, city staff, and community members, where we can sit down and have an opportunity to share our perspectives on what we see as being problems. So the focus on this will be implicit bias. And that will be an opportunity for us to lay out all of the issues that are of concern to all the parties involved in that meeting. And the idea is to be able to document all of that and figure out the path forward to resolve some of these issues. My perspective on implicit bias and racism and things of that nature is that it's not possible to legislate racism out of a community. But what you can do is legislate the ability to weaponize your racism out of a community. And the hope is that the culture of the community will fall in line with that legislation. Now, before we can get to that and make truly smart decisions in terms of the legislation and the procedures and processes and protocols that are necessary to rid society of some of these ills that we're talking about, we need to know exactly what they are. And I'd like to hear the perspective of all sides so that we can make smart decisions in moving forward.
Thanks, Kurt. I have a question from Gigi. It says, if elected to the city council, will you ensure the community gets the much needed Miles Hall non-police response program for those experiencing a mental health crisis in the next budget as an annual allocation?
That is my goal. That's the reason I'm doing this in the first place. That is the thing that launched me into working with the city in the first place. I want to ensure that what happened to Miles Hall never happens to anyone again. And at this point, no one has shown me a better way to do it. So by supporting that and pushing as hard as possible to ensure that that program is in place, I think it will take us a long distance towards ensuring that this doesn't happen again. In my conversations with the police department, the city council, and the community, no one wants to see a repeat of what happened. And I think the key is ensuring that all parties involved understand the value of a program such as the one you just mentioned and how it can mitigate some of the risks that are still looming over us and ensure the safety of our community.
Great. Carrie, I think we have probably time for one additional question.
We do. So Chris, I'm going to ask, I believe this is from Dave. Being a long-term resident of Walnut Creek who's raised his children in the community, what do you feel that we can do as a community to make all young people more included in the life of the city? I thought that was a good question for you.
That is good. You know, one of the, it sounds corny, but I believe the children are the future. And I want to come up with several ways to interact with our youth, specifically the high schoolers. And politics is mystifying to kids at that age. And I want to demystify what the city is doing. And I want to open up channels to ensure that these youth have an opportunity to come in and see what we do. And I think it's important for the city council people, the leadership within the city, to get outside of the building where they do their work every day and go out and see the community. And an important part of the community that they need to go visit and see would be city council. why not have a program where once a semester you go to a local high school and you meet with half of the students and give them an opportunity to ask questions about hot topics and things that they are as concerned about in our community as the adults are. I think that's very, very important. And also, the youth, they live their lives in social media. So we need to ensure that City Council has a vibrant social media platform, and it's sharing information that goes beyond just press releases, but more interesting things that will spark the interest of the youth. So that's a starting point. Just by interacting with the youth, more ideas and more avenues for getting them engaged will rear their head.
Thanks, Kurtis. I just want to acknowledge there are a lot of questions that have come in, and I apologize we cannot get to all of them tonight. We're trying to be committed to the commitment we made to you of keeping this kind of time bound. It's great to see all of the engagement and the support and the dialogue, and more importantly, Kurtis, it's great to hear how you can bring about and plan to bring about some progressive change for our city. I would encourage those who did not have your questions answered. Again, apologies, but we've got several more events coming up where I think it's really important that we can rally the folks around and help Kurt get his message out. But as we wrap up tonight, I wanted to reiterate a few things that Ted said at the top of our call this evening. There are 4 really important ways that we would like you to participate in this campaign. And I think the goal tonight was to say kurtisreese.com several times, because I think you're going to hear it several times tonight. But that's the landing page for everything that we're doing. And the 4 areas or 4 ways that for you to get involved can all be found there. So first, it's really, please consider donating to the campaign if you can. The limit for donations is $200 per person over 18, as Ted mentioned, but any amount is helpful for us getting the word out. And looks like Carrie has posted in the chat the link that takes you directly to that donation page. The second way is for volunteers. These campaigns rely on volunteers. As Ted mentioned, we need an army of volunteers. If you'd like to be involved, even if it's a little bit, visit the webpage, click the Get Involved link, drop your name in there, and we'll be in touch, and we'll figure out a way to get you part of the campaign. The third is the endorsements. It's really important in these local races for neighborhoods and friends to see others endorsing candidates. If you're comfortable doing so, I'd encourage you to go to the endorsement link at the top of the page, top of kurtisreese.com, and put your name in there. And lastly, please don't forget to follow Kurtis on social media, share his social media. On Facebook, it's @Reese2020. And on Instagram, it's KReeseIs, that's IS, on Instagram. And I believe Carrie's Carrie's put those also in the chat. If you prefer to hear about campaign updates and news via email, we have that option too. You can sign up online at kurtisreese.com. You can subscribe. You can be kept abreast of what's going on with Kurtis, where he's going to be next, and again, how you can potentially get involved. But with that, on behalf of Kurtis and his campaign, I'd like to thank everybody who's been working behind the scenes to make tonight possible. I'd like to thank the volunteers who've already come forward. We will be in touch with you in the coming days to start to talk about mobilization there. I also would like to thank those who've endorsed Kurtis. Again, that's a really important part of this. And then, of course, all of you who joined us tonight. I think at the peak, I saw about 92 people. We're down to 87. But thanks to all of you for sticking in and for listening and being part of this. We look forward to seeing you at a future event. We'll be posting those online and on social. And we're just happy to be able to share this information about Kurtis, the campaign, and the change that hopefully is coming to Walnut Creek. So with that, be well and have a great evening. Thank you for joining.
Thank you all.